Hi, my name is Ingrid Pan, and I'm a Pediatric Clinical Pharmacist in the Rheumatology Clinic at Children's Hospital, Colorado. Today, I'll be reviewing the abstract data recently published in the journal Annals of the Rheumatic Diseases by Dr. Bruner and colleagues, titled Safety and Efficacy of Upadacitinib for Pediatric Patients with Polyarticular Course Juvenile Idiopathic Arthritis, an interim analysis of an open-label Phase-1 trial. So the purpose of this study was to really talk about the Phase-1 trial that evaluated the efficacy and safety of upadacitinib in pediatric patients with polyarticular JIA. The study design was an open-label 3-part Phase-1 trial. So part 1 was 7 days, and they looked at the pharmacokinetics, safety, and tolerability. There were 3 age groups that went through Phase 1, and they received different dosing regimens that were considered either low dose or high dose. The dosing for that wasn't published in the abstract. Phase 2 was about 155 weeks, and it really looked at the long-term safety, tolerability, and descriptive efficacy. And Phase 3 safety was about 156 weeks, and the efficacy for that is ongoing. Inclusion criteria for patients were 2 to less than 18 years old with polyarticular course JIA who weighed 10 kilograms or more and had 5 or more active joints and were recruited from 31 sites across the world in North America, Europe, and Asia. Patients had to have no prior JAK inhibitor exposure, and they were also allowed to continue methotrexate and glucocorticoids as part of the study design. So the data that has been presented is an interim analysis. So the data that is in this abstract is from before September 22nd, 2022. So they evaluated the safety data in Phase 1, 2, and 3, and the efficacy data in Part 1 and 2. Part 3 for efficacy is still ongoing, and they want to collect more patients to be enrolled. So thinking through the efficacy endpoints that Dr. Bruner and colleagues looked at, they looked at 2 specific endpoints. One was the JIA, American College of Rheumatology, or ACR, 30, 50, and 70 response points at week 12, as well as the Childhood Health Assessment Questionnaire and the 27-point Juvenile Arthritis Disease Activity Score based off the CRP or JDAS-27. They looked at the endpoints and they were reported as observed data, and all endpoints were presented as descriptive statistics. So looking at their patient population and their results, a total of 57 patients were included. Majority of them were female, about 80% of the included patients were female, and the mean age was about 9.5 years with about a mean weight of 38.1 kilograms. 51 of the 57 patients were treated in Part 1 and 2. And looking at the figure with the efficacy endpoints, a high proportion of patients actually responded really well with upadacitinib by week 12. So ACR 30, about 92% of the patients responded to a ACR 30, 90% responded to a ACR 50, and 69% responded to a ACR 70. Looking at the endpoint for the questionnaire, they also saw improvement from baseline to week 12 across all age groups. In terms of the safety data in the Part 1, about 16% of patients reported adverse effects through the first 7 days of Part 1, but none of them were really considered serious or led to treatment discontinuation. Most of these patients were exposed to upadacitinib for about a mean duration about 515 days, and about 91% of patients reported adverse effects that were predominantly deemed as mild to moderate. Most of the common side effects were COVID infection, about 40% of patients experienced that. Upper respiratory tract infection, about 40% as well. Nasopharyngitis, about 23% of patients. Gastroenteritis, or about 18% of patients. Pyrexia, or about 18%. And abdominal pain, about 16%. They distinctly called out adverse effects of special interests, which included CPK elevation. About 10% of patients had that. Hepatic disorder, about 5% experienced that. And then neutropenia, about 3.5% of patients had that. And that sort of goes toward the JAK1 selectivity, a mechanism of action of upadacitinib. These 3 adverse effects of special interests were deemed as non-serious events by the investigators. 6 of the 19 patients in the age group of 12 to less than 18 years old reported adverse effects, and about 2 of them only really had to discontinue treatment. So overall, very, very low treatment discontinuation rate in the entire study. So what are my thoughts on this interim data? So based on the phase 1 to 3 safety data and the part 1 to 2 efficacy data demonstrating disease activity and physical improvement, upadacitinib did show improvement in improving disease activity, which led to its approval by the FDA and the orphan drug designation in June of 2024. And really, this is great to have another oral agent available for our polyarticular coarse JIA patients, since the majority of available therapeutic agents have been historically either intravenous or subcutaneous. I really look forward to part 3 of the trial coming out and looking at the continued long-term safety and efficacy data.